It was my first year of university. I had just finished unpacking all of my stuff into my room. My family had just left. Later on that same day, my roommate finally arrived. Right from the get-go, I knew this kid was the most socially inept person I'd ever met. I introduced myself as Dan. I stuck out my arm for a handshake. He paused. He looked down at my arm as if he didn't understand at first. Then he laughed and went, "Oh," and gave me an almost dead fish handshake. I had to ask him for his name. He didn't even tell me when we shook hands. He was Dale. I tried to make small talk. He just answered my questions with yes or no, occasionally awkwardly laughing or smiling. Within minutes we were both just sitting on our beds on our laptops, not talking to each other. I was upset. I planned on requesting to be placed with a different roommate. Anyone would be better than Dale, I thought. Dale was just a really awkward kid. I soon learned he was much more than just that. I met some of the other kids on my floor. They seemed cool. That was good. I came back to my dorm after looking around campus the first night to find Dale still in the same position he was in when I left. I said, "What's up, Dale?" He didn't answer, not to my surprise. It was 9:30. I didn't have anything to do. I turned out the lamp on my side of the room. I went to bed. I didn't actually fall asleep anytime soon though. Dale was on his laptop until 3 o'clock in the morning. He finally closed his laptop. I fell asleep pretty quickly. I woke up within the hour. The blinds to our room had been opened. The moonlight now creeping into the room made everything visible. Dale was sitting on the side of his bed. He was looking at me. I sat up. I rubbed my eyes. I said, "Dale, what the hell are you doing?" He whispered back, "Sorry," and laid down. The next morning I woke up to find Dale had already gotten up. I felt like it was the first time he left the room. It was a Saturday. The first Saturday of the year meant orientation and all the campus festivities. During the orientation, as my group was walking by the school gardens, I heard a couple of students ahead of me saying, "What is that kid doing in there?" I saw who they were talking about. It was Dale. He was literally sitting in the dirt behind a patch of bushes. He was rubbing the bark of a tree with his hand. The orientation leader didn't notice. Otherwise, I'm sure she would have said something. I just walked by not saying anything. Eventually, I told the two kids I overheard that he was my roommate as a way to start a conversation and maybe make some friends. They apologized for me. None of us really knew if it was appropriate to laugh or not. We did. I made friends with those two kids. We made plans to get together that night. I also learned when I got back to my dorm that the school found another roommate for me. Things seemed to be turning around quickly for the better. I left the room that night to go meet up with the two kids I met. When I got back, Dale was sitting on the desk chair facing the door. I said, "Oh, hey, what's up?" He said nothing, very matter-of-factly. I sat down on my bed. I opened my laptop. I realized I forgot to lock it. I also realized that all of my emails had been opened. Emails I was pretty sure I didn't even read. A bunch of folders of mine had been opened. Dale must have snooped through my laptop. When I asked him if he did, he responded, "No," very loudly. It was half a second after I even finished my question. I could read him like a book. This creepy kid was literally going through my computer when I was out. I knew he did it. I didn't pursue it. I was ready to go to bed. As I went into my bed to look for my pajamas, I felt like my clothing had all been moved around as well. I knew I'd be out of there forever by tomorrow. I didn't say anything. I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of a zipper. I sat up. I saw Dale on the ground going through my bag. I turned the lamp on. I confronted him about it this time. He played dumb, saying, "I think you have my toothbrush by mistake." It was the closest thing to wits that had shown up until that point. Still, I knew he was lying. I knew something was wrong with him. I couldn't get physical with him. The next day I met my new roommate in the same building. Everything went well. Sunday night, after having a decent conversation with my roommate, who is no social butterfly but was miles better than Dale, we both turned off our lights. We went to bed. For the third night in a row, I woke up at some off hour of the night to a strange noise. It was a weird clicking noise. It wasn't consistent. I'd hear it at least twice every 30 seconds. I got up, hoping to find something innocent like a heavy bag putting pressure on a weak floorboard or even a mouse. As I scoped out the room, I realized the sound was actually coming from the other side of the door. The night light in the common area was always on. I looked through the peephole. I was able to see the scalp of the person standing on the other side of our door. They were looking down. I couldn't see their face. Now that I was paying attention, I realized the tiny clicking noises were actually coming from the doorknob. I was sure the person was trying to unlock the door. I dialed the number for the campus police department. They showed up in under 5 minutes to the common room. Only then did I feel it was safe to open the door. I found the officers to have Dale in cuffs. I had a feeling it was him. I told them everything. He was my former roommate. He was going through my stuff. I switched dorms only to find him trying to break into my new dorm. They took him away. I don't know what happened to him after that. I never saw him again. He either got suspended for the semester or expelled. I got through the rest of my years at university like anybody else. The nightmarish experience I had with Dale still pops up in my head every now and then. I was 15. I had my first girlfriend. We lived in an upper-class area. It was very quiet and peaceful. My girlfriend Casey also lived 2 blocks away. I could walk to her house almost nightly. One Thursday night during break when I had nothing to do, I started my walk over to Casey's house. It was on the later side of the night. I didn't really have a curfew. It didn't matter. Pretty soon I thought I could start hearing noises from around me. When I say around me, I mean mostly behind me. The first time I heard it, it was the sound of a bush being shaken a bit. I only turned my head to look for a second without stopping. I just started to walk a little faster as all do. When I got to the next block I heard another noise. A twig or a small stick cracked. I stopped this time. I turned around. All I saw was the empty street. I saw the bushes that lined up along each property to separate the sidewalks from people's properties. Basically, next to the street was a wall of bushes. I didn't see anyone or anything that could be making these weird sounds. I picked up the pace even more. I was reaching the home stretch to Casey's house. Of course, there was another sound again. This time more like footsteps. Quick, light footsteps. I turned again without stopping. No one, nothing I could see. Casey's house was now in sight. I called, she picked up right away. I told her how freaked out I was getting because I kept hearing noises. I walked around the bushes surrounding her driveway. I stepped onto her property. I noticed her staring out her bedroom window upstairs. She waved at me as she left on the phone. I waved back. She asked me, "Who was that guy right behind you?" I turned right around. I saw a fully grown man crouched walking maybe 10 feet behind me. I screamed. I ran for the door. I started pounding on it. The man grabbed me. He tried to put me in some kind of headlock. He let go. He ran away pretty quickly. Casey's mom opened the door with a look of dismay on her face. She let me in. She slammed the door shut. Casey came running over. I was out of breath. I felt like my heart was beating 1,000 beats a minute. Casey's mom hugged me. She asked a few questions. She called the police to warn of a dangerous man going around town. Casey's mom let me stay over that night for obvious reasons. She drove me home the next day. This takes place during the first week of school. It was my freshman year at the University of Iowa. I was just starting to get comfortable with my roommate. He was dedicated to the idea of rushing a fraternity. Rush week was starting the next week. The parties were starting Thursday of the first week. My roommate didn't want to go alone. It would be harder to meet people that way. He wanted me to go. I happily agreed to go with him even though I had no interest in rushing a fraternity. I still had intentions to go to parties. After all, I was attending a party school. My roommate wanted to go to one frat party on Thursday, then parties at different frat houses on Friday and Saturday. On this Thursday night, we were headed to perhaps one of the lowest ranked frats. I'm pretty sure it was an underground one too. His logic in attending was to have a backup frat in case the higher ones wouldn't give him a bid. The frat house was really far from campus. It was in a much more slummed downtown area. We pulled up to a corner house. If it weren't for the blasting music and cars parked everywhere, we would never picture this house as a frat house. It literally looked like they settled with the first house they found. We knocked on the door. We were immediately greeted by some short chubby guy in a white t-shirt holding a Solo cup. His shirt had sweat stains by his armpits and mid-belly area. He told us to come right in. The party itself was in a horribly dimly lit room. There were probably 50 guys bunched up into the living room. It was hot as hell in there. To make it even worse, I think I saw maybe 2 girls at the entire party. Neither of them were even close to attractive. I gave the party a good 20 minutes. I was talking with one overweight foreigner after another. All were giving off antisocial vibes. Eventually, I waved for my roommate to get ready to leave. A huge group of guys by the door made us decide to wait a little longer to avoid the awkwardness of leaving early. I continued to drink the cheap beers they were serving. I think I downed 5 cups before I could even feel the buzz. A heavy guy approached me with a tiny bottle in his hand. He handed it to me smirking. He said, "That'll get you shit-faced." I fake laughed. I thanked him, expecting him to go away. He just watched to me as if he were waiting for me to drink it. I did. It was maybe 2 shots worth of some kind of hard liquor. The guy then started making conversation with me. Every time I hinted that I was trying to get away, he would try to pull me further into this otherwise one-sided conversation. Things started to get really blurry pretty soon. I remember feeling dizzy all of a sudden. The room seemed to be getting darker. That was the last thing I remember before waking up in a dark room laying in a bed. I could hear the sound of music muffled behind closed doors. I knew I was still in the frat house. It was a very dark room. I could still make out certain furniture in the room. I could see a small closet door. I couldn't see much else though. Even over the blaring music I heard the sound of a plastic bag being crunched from the closet. It was as if somebody had stepped on it by mistake. I ran out of that room. I ran down the stairs. I ran back to the overcrowded living room. I found my roommate. I pushed him out the front door past a group of guys still standing in a circle right next to it. During the car ride back to campus I told my roommate I was drugged. He almost called the cops. I said it would be foolish and pointless. My roommate then asked me an awkward question. Was I taken advantage of? I didn't feel any type of pain. My clothes were all still on the same. I assumed not. When I did a time check I realized I'd only been out for maybe 10 minutes before waking up. Whatever the guy gave me must have been a dud or something. Thank God. That was my college experience of attending an underground ghetto frat party. It remains to be my scariest life experience. I had a single dorm my first semester of sophomore year. It was in the corner of the floor. It was kind of secluded from the rest of the dorm rooms. It was in its own little section. You had to turn a corner to even see the door. It was nice because I'd be able to still talk with friends on my floor, invite people over to my room, and still have privacy when it was time to do homework or go to sleep. A few weeks into the semester while studying for a bio exam the silence was interrupted by a noise. It took me a bit to realize it was a light tapping on the door. It was so light that I almost didn't even hear it. I yelled, "Come in." The door didn't open. I got up to open it. Nobody was there. I walked around the corner to look down the hall. Nobody. Somebody was obviously messing with me. I went back to my bed. I continued studying. I left the door open this time. Nobody came back. The next night, a few minutes after shutting the lamp in my bedroom to go to bed, the tapping on the door returned. This time it was much louder. It was more of a knocking sound. I called out, "Who is it?" Again the knocking stopped. Nobody answered. I got out of my bed quickly. I opened the door. My small private corridor was void of any people again. I ran the 10 feet from my door to the corner to look down the main hallway of the floor. Nobody. The next morning I asked some of the other kids in the dorm if they had been messing with me. Everyone said no. The next night I woke up after having been asleep for 3 hours. Someone was knocking on my door again. This time louder than ever. I had trouble deciding whether to open the door or not. This time with a bout of courage I hopped up. I opened the door. Nobody was there as I was expecting. This time I full-on sprinted down the tiny corridor isolating my room. I turned the corner. I saw the back of somebody disappearing behind the far corner on the opposite side of the hallway. I ran as fast as I could down the hallway. I turned to the next hallway. I saw the person a few seconds earlier. I saw a door at the end of the hallway shutting. It wasn't a dorm room. It was a bathroom. I felt like I was ready to confront whoever this joker was. I pushed open the bathroom door with force. The light was off. I turned it on expecting to see somebody hiding in there. I didn't see anyone. My first instinct was to check the 2 bathroom stalls. They were both shut. I got on my hands and knees. I looked under the 2 stalls. 2 heavy black boots could be seen from underneath one of the stall doors. I took a deep breath. I pushed the stall open. I was confused. There were the boots sitting on the floor. There was no person to wear them. I heard a creepy giggling noise. It wasn't a feminine or childlike one. It was a kind of laughing that I could only imagine to be that of a really old crazy man. For some reason my confidence was gone on. I was scared shitless. I ran back to my room. I shut the door. I hopped back in my bed. I started texting every friend I had. Of course everybody was asleep though. The knocking happened one more time that night. I ignored it. It went on for about 30 seconds before whoever that person was finally gave up. I spoke to everybody on my floor the next day. Nobody else heard any knocking. Everybody swore they weren't pranking me. Everybody seemed sincere. I don't know why this person chose to harass me. I don't know who this person was. Judging by the boots and the laughing I heard, this was an older man though. That disturbs me.